Welcome to Games from Plug Tales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson, and this is your Monster of the Month. The Hours from Thompson's Insomnia. This poem, which the author claims is autobiographical, contains angels or demons which represent the hours, and they become progressively more terrible as the night continues. They sap the man's ability to sleep such that he becomes like a ghost. Death in life is one of Thompson's core artistic preoccupations, as seen in our previous episodes concerning the City of Dreadful Night. One note on the contents of the poem: Malebolges, mentioned near the end, are a reference to Virgil's Inferno. Malebolge is the eighth circle of hell. It's a vast funnel-shaped cavern in which there are 10 ditches. Into this various sinners are deposited, and in the centre lies the ninth and final circle. The reader for this poem is Moon Lilith from LibriVox. Thanks to them and their production team. Stats, eventually.
Insomnia. Sleepless himself, to give to others sleep. He giveth his beloved sleep. I heard the sounding of the midnight hour. The others one by one had left the room, in calm assurance that the gracious power of sleep's fine alchemy would bless the gloom, transmuting all its leaden weight to gold, to treasures of rich virtue manifold. New strength, new health, new life, just weary enough to nestle softly, sweetly, into divine unconsciousness, completely delivered from the world of toil and care and strife, just weary enough to feel assured of rest, of sleep's divine oblivion and repose, renewing heart and brain for richer zest of waking life when golden morning glows, as young and pure and glad as if the first that ever on the void of darkness burst with ravishing warmth and light, on dewy grass and flowers and blithe birds singing, and shining waters all enraptured springing, fragrance and shine and song out of the womb of night. But I, with infinite weariness outworn, haggard with endless nights unblessed by sleep, ravaged by thoughts unutterably forlorn, plunged in despairs unfathomably deep, went cold and pale and trembling with affright into the desert vastitude of night, arid and wild and black, foreboding no oasis of sweet slumber, counting beforehand all the countless number of sands that are its minutes on my desolate track. And so I went, the last, to my drear bed, aghast as one who should go down to lie among the blissfully unconscious dead, assured that as the endless years flowed by over the dreadful silence and deep gloom and dense oppression of the stifling tomb, he only of them all, nerveless and impotent to madness, never could hope oblivion's perfect trance forever, an agony of life eternal in death's pall. But that would be forever without cure, and yet the agony be not more great, supreme fatigue and pain, while they endure, into eternity their time translate, be it of hours and days or countless years and boundless eons, it alike appears to the crushed victim's soul. Utter despair foresees no termination, but feels itself of infinite duration. The smallest fragment instant comprehends the whole. The absolute of torture as of bliss is timeless, each transcending time and space, the one an infinite obscure abyss, the other an eternal heaven of grace, keeping a little lamp of glimmering light companion through the horrors of the night. I laid me down aghast as he of all who pass death's quiet portal, malignantly reserved, alone, immortal, in consciousness of bale that must forever last. I laid me down and closed my heavy eyes, as if sleep's mockery might win true sleep, and grew aware with awe but not surprise, blindly aware through all the silence deep of some dark presence watching by my bed, the awful image of a nameless dread. But I lay still fordone, and felt its shadow on me, dark and solemn and steadfast as a monumental column, and thought drear thoughts of doom, and heard the bells chime 1. Then I raised my weary eyes and saw, by some slant moonlight on the ceiling thrown in faint lamp gleam, that image of my awe, still as a pillar of basaltic stone, but all enveloped in a somber shroud, except the wan face drooping, heavy-browed, with sad eyes fixed on mine. Sad, weary, yearning eyes, but fixed remorseless upon my eyes, yet warier, that were forceless to bear the cruel pressure, cruel, unmalign. Wherefore I asked for what I knew too well. O ominous midnight presence, what art thou? Whereto, in tones that sounded like a knell, I am the second hour, appointed now to watch beside thy slumberless unrest. Then I, thus both alike unblessed, for I should sleep, you fly. Are not those wings beneath thy mantle molded? O hour, unfold those wings so straitly folded, and urge thy natural flight beneath the moonlit sky. My wings shall open when your eyes shall close in real slumber from this waking drear. Your wild unrest is my enforced repose. Ere I move hence, you must not know me here. Could not your wings fan slumber through my brain, soothing away its weariness and pain? Your sleep must stir my wings. Sleep, and I bear you gently on my pinions athwart my span of hollow night's dominions, whence hour on hour shall bear to morning's golden springs. That which I ask of you, you ask of me, O weary hour, thus standing sentinel against your nature, as I feel and see against my own your form immovable. Could I bring sleep to set you on the wing, what other thing so gladly would I bring? Truly, the poet saith, it is best whose absence we deplore most, whose presence in our longing is the foremost. What blessings equal sleep, save only love and death? I let my lids fall, sick of thought and sense, but felt that shadow heavy on my heart, and saw the night before me, an immense black waste of ridge walls, hour by hour apart, dividing deep ravines from ridge to ridge. Sleep's flying hour was an aerial bridge. But I, whose hours stood fast, must climb down painfully each steep side hither, and climb more painfully each steep side thither, and so make 1 hour's span for years of travail last. Thus I went down into that first ravine, warily, slowly, blindly, and alone, staggering, stumbling, sinking depths unseen, shaken and bruised and gasped by stub and stone. And at the bottom, paven with slipperiness, a torrent brook rushed headlong with such stress against my feeble limbs, such fury of wave and foam and icy bleakness buffeting insupportably my weakness, that when I would recall, dazed memory swirls and swims. How I got through I know not, faint as death, and then I had to climb the awful scarp, creeping with many a pause for panting breath, clinging to tangled root and ruck jut sharp, perspiring with faint chills instead of heat, trembling and bleeding hands and knees and feet, falling to rise anew until, with lamentable toil and travel, upon the ridge of arid sand and gravel, I lay supine, half dead, and heard the bells chime 2, and knew a change of watchers in the room, without a stir or sound beside my bed. Only the tingling silence of the gloom, the muffled pulsing of the night's deep dread, and felt an image mightier to appall. And looked, the moonlight on the bedfoot wall and corniced ceiling white was slanting now, and in the midst stood solemn and hopeless as a black sepulchral column, a steadfast shrouded form, the third hour of the night. The fixed regard implacably austere, yet none the less ineffably forlorn. Something transcending all my former fear came jarring through my shattered frame outworn. I knew that crushing rock could not be stirred. I had no heart to say a single word, but closed my eyes again, and set me shuddering to the task stupendous of climbing down and up that gulf tremendous, until the next hour ridge beyond hope's farthest ken. Men sigh and plain and wail how life is brief. Ah, yes, our bright eternities of bliss are transient, rare, minute beyond relief, mere stardust meteors in time's night abyss. Ah, no, our black eternities in tents of veil are lasting, dominant, immense, as time, which is their breath. The memory of the bliss is yearning sorrow. The memory of the bale clouds every morrow, darkening through nights and days unto the night of death. No human words could paint my travail sore in the thick darkness of the next ravine, deeper immeasurably than that before, when hideous agonies, unheard, unseen, in overwhelming floods of torture roll, and horrors of great darkness drown the soul. To be is not to be in memory, save as ghastliest impression, and chaos of demoniacal possession. I shuddered on the ridge and heard the bells chime 3. And like a pillar of essential gloom, most terrible in stature and regard, black in the moonlight, filling all the room, the image of the fourth hour, evil starred, stood over me. But there was something more, something behind it, undiscerned before, more dreadful than its dread, which overshadowed it with fateful, inexorable fascination, hateful, a wan and formless shade from regions of the dead. I shut my eyes against that spectral shade, which yet allured me with a deadly charm, and that black image of the hour, dismayed by such tremendous menacing of harm, and so into the gulf as into hell, where what immeasurable depths I fell, with seizures of the heart, whose each clutch seemed the end of all pulsation, and tremors of examinate prostration are horrors in my soul that never can depart. If I for hope or wish had any force, it was that I might rush down, sharply hurled from rock to rock, until a mangled course down with the fury of the torrent whirled, the fury of the black waters and white foam, to where the homeless find their only home in the immense void sea, whose isles are worlds surrounding, unsurrounded, whose depths no mortal plummet ever sounded, beneath all surface storm calm in eternity. Such hope or wish was as a feeble spark, a little lamp's pale glimmer in a tomb, to just reveal the hopeless, deadly dark, and wordless horrors of my soul's fixed doom. Yet some mysterious instinct, obstinate, blindly unconscious as a law of fate, still urged me on, and bore my shattered being through the unfeared peril of death less hateful than the life as sterile. I shuddered on the ridge, and heard the bells chime 4. The image of that fifth hour of the night was blacker in the moonlight, now aslant upon its left than on its shrouded right, and over and behind it, dominant, the shadow, not its shadow, cast its spell, most vague and dim and wan and terrible, death's ghastly aureole, pregnant with overpowering fascination, commanding my repulsive instigation, despair's envenomed anodyne to tempt the soul. I closed my eyes, but could no longer keep under that image in most awful shade, supine in mockery of blissful sleep, delirious with such fierce thirst unallayed. Of all worst agonies, the most unblessed is passive agony of wild unrest. Trembling and faint I rose, and dressed with painful efforts, and descended with furtive footsteps and with breath suspended, and left the slumbering house with my unslumbering woes. Constrained to move through the unmoving hours, accursed from rest because the hours stood still, feeling the hands of the infernal powers heavy upon me for enormous ill, inscrutable, intolerable pain, against which mortal pleas and prayers are vain, gaspings of dying breath, and human struggles, dying spasms yet vainer. Renounce defense when doom is the arraigner. Let impotence of life subside, appeased in death. I paced the silent and deserted streets, in cold dark shade and chillier moonlight gray, pondering a dolorous series of defeats and black disasters from life's opening day, invested with the shadow of a doom that filled the spring and summer with a gloom most wintry, bleak, and drear. Gloom from within, as from a sulphurous censer, making the glooms without forever denser, to blight the buds and flowers and fruitage of my year. Against the bridge's stony parapet I leaned, and gazed into the waters black, and marked an angry morning, red and wet, beneath a livid and enormous rack, glare out confronting the belated moon, huddled and wan and feeble as the swoon of featureless despair, when some stray workman, half asleep but lusty, passed urgent through the rain-pour, wild and gusty. I felt a ghost already, planted, watching there, as phantom to its grave or to its den, some wild beast of the night when night is sped. I turned unto my homeless home again, to front a day only less charged with dread than that dread night, and after day to front another night of what would be the brunt? I put the thought aside, to be resumed when common life, unfolded in common daylight, had my brain remolded. Meanwhile, the flaws of rain refreshed and fortified. The day passed, and the night, and other days, and other nights, and all of evil doom. The sun hours in a sick, bewildering haze, the star hours in a thick, enormous gloom, with rending lightnings and with thunder knells, the ghastly hours of all the timeless hells. Bury them with their bane! I look back on the words already written, and writhe by cold rage stung, by self-scorn smitten. They are so weak and vain and infinitely inane. How from those hideous male bulges deep I could ever win back to upper earth, restored to human nights of blessed sleep, and healthy waking with the day's new birth? How do men climb back from a swoon whose stress, crushing far deeper than all consciousness, is deep as deep death seems? Who can the steps and stages meet and number by which we reemerge from nightly slumber? Our poor, vast, petty life is one dark maze of dreams.
Your saga may vary.